Let's turn that music down. Hey guys, can you hear me all right? Happy morning! Oh my god, F you YouTube! F you YouTube! F you, F you, F you, F you, F you! I've had to set up 3 different links to get the stream to go live, and I hate it! I hate it, I hate it, I hate it! Hey guys. I can't... don't know if you've noticed. But, you know, if you try to, like, set up a stream in advance, YouTube just makes it the most complicated, pointless thing ever. Oh, God. All right. But that's not your fault. So I'm not going to direct my anger at you. You guys don't need that hate in your life on a Sunday morning. You don't need that, right? So let's see how you guys are going. How you're doing, sorry. It's very German. How are you going? Wie geht es bei dir? Wie geht es bei euch? How is it going with you? Let's see. Let's just do a little transition. Yeah, we got different things in the chat, but actually I think I prefer to be able to see you guys in the chat, so I'm going to go ahead and transition that back. Yeah. One of these days I will actually figure out the secret steps in the right order that you need to take to have a reoccurring stream and actually have the stream key that YouTube gives you be the actual stream key. So let me all right, you don't need this drama in your life, but let me just explain the problem. I want to set up a weekly event. And so what YouTube allows you to do is they say you can choose a recurring stream key for that event. And you can drop down, you can like set up, like I tried to set up one for the happy hour and one for Weekend Winter, so I could actually set up in advance multiple hangouts. And then like, okay, well, this is your reoccurring stream key down here. Link it to this. And I did. But then when I actually went to go live, there was no connection. So I'd actually been broadcasting for 5 minutes, I thought, before I realized, based on the chat, you guys weren't responding to anything I was saying. So then I had to go back go into the actual, not the recurring event stream key, but the sub key within that recurring event, find that, replace the supposedly permanent stream key that they give you with the temporary stream key, which is different from the temporary stream key they give you if it's just a one-off stream, I guess. Don't know what the difference there is. And then find that, replace it with the one I thought was the correct one that I had linked earlier so that they were all set up. It's a nightmare. It's honestly a nightmare. It's like I have to, if you ever have to do like a game where you have to like touch this thing and then move over to this part of the room and do things in a certain order to make the door open. Like anyway, so that was me venting. And honestly, considering the week that we've had, it's a pretty first world problem, considering I was like 4 minutes late for this stream. Not a big deal, but well, I don't know about you guys. It has been another just intense, nonstop week. And the politics, as you know, doesn't stop, and neither do we here on Weekend Winters. But we're going to try to take it down a little bit. We're going to go in a lower gear. We're going to go at a slightly slower pace, and we're going to look at some PragerU. Actually, I should put that up. Although you can't, yeah, you guys need to see the screen with the screen that's not me in the way. Okay, yeah, this is the window I want. Let's transition. Hey, now it's little Christy in the corner. I'm in a box. I'm in a box. I can't get out. That's kind of hard to do on this side. It's easier to do the top lower one. Anyway, never play Dark Souls. You will smash your flat up. Okay, well, good to know. I'll just watch it. Let's play, no commentary. I don't game. I have no gaming skills. I can play the guitar. I can type. I can do other things with my hands. But one thing I do not have is like the whole X square, circle, triangle muscle memory developed. Therefore, I tend to prefer to watch other people play video games because I enjoy the narrative arc, and there's sometimes puzzles to solve in games and the challenge of, beating the boss. But if I played myself, I would be so frustrated and unhappy that there would be no point. It would not. I have tried playing games in the past. I just need a game partner who is very much like, hit this button, follow me, go over here, kill that thing for like the first week. Okay. No. At least the first couple of days. But actually, a sort of marathon of gaming, like a sort of Boxing Day to New Year's Day gaming marathon. Sounds like a nice way to spend a Christmas holiday. So in terms of the sound, am I sound coming through okay for you guys? Everything's doing all right? Yes. Speaking of bonsai, I think I'll adopt the nickname Cranky Boy. All right, there we go. So I'm going to move my mic a little bit here, so when I turn this way, my voice doesn't disappear. So what I've got lined up in the show for you today? What have I got lined up for you guys? I wanted to discuss, why is this? Okay, yep. I thought I would give you guys a chance to pick your own 5-minute video. So we did this last time, I think, and I'm sounding a little bit quiet. That's okay. I can turn it up a bit. Just fair warning, I'm turning my sound up a bit here now, so I should be a bit louder. Yeah, I am a bit quiet. I'm not really hitting the yellows on this for some reason. Maybe I need to talk more directly into the mic. So I'll move the mic over and speak more directly into it. Is that a bit better? Okay. Some people are like, spot. Some people have it turned up louder. Some people have it turned to their normal. So hopefully that'll be a little bit better. I'm looking at my screen now. I'm going just into the yellow. So as long as I talk right at the mic. Sorry, I shouldn't touch it. Right. Aircon drowning you out. Yeah, it could be just background noise. All right, so 5-minute videos. Here's the thing is, it's just so easy. So during the week, I follow real politics. And during the week, I am trying to keep up on the minutiae, the details, the day-to-day events, and picking out those ones that I think wash out from the news cycle, kind of remember in order to track the narrative of this administration. And I do that because I'm a geek and I'm a nerd and I love immersing myself in politics because I find it endlessly fascinating, but also so that I can kind of synthesize a take for you guys on the happy hour. But on the weekends, I just want to kind of do less work. I want to dumb it down a bit. I want to take my foot off the brake. And there's really no better way to dumb it down than to do a PragerU video. So, could be anything from Animal Crossing series would be great. Just chill out and have cute animal friends. Yeah, I have this, I don't know if I told you guys this. I have this dream of when I retire of opening a dog daycare center for small dogs, because I would need a lot of property to have one that would be proper for large dogs. So start with small and medium-sized dogs. And just have people drop off their dogs to me and then pay me to hang out and babysit their dogs all day and, take care of them and stuff. That just sounds like, that's something to do for 20 years before you die. That sounds like a nice way to spend the golden years of my life. I can't imagine just being retired. I would have to start a business or do something. Hey, Twisted Hippie. Hey, Mithril, by the way. I see James is into chat. DN fan. Ga. I'm just going to call you Ga. That's about it. So people who are checking in so far. So guys, these are your options. I know last time, I can't remember. Honestly, I don't even remember what we did last time. So let's see. The thing I try to stay away from with these is generally stuff that I don't feel very comfortable with, but like things like history things that I might not be able to do. But then again, it really just takes looking stuff up on Wikipedia to debunk these guys. So we already did why is God a he, and I think is Denmark socialist? Preferred pronouns or prison? That's a total lie. So if you guys, was Jesus a socialist? Oh, guys, can we do? Is that all right? Can we do? Was Jesus a socialist? That would be. I didn't even know that one existed. Oh, that just looks awesome. Why was Jesus a socialist? Yeah. We did the government is making you fat. That's right. Because I decided to blame the government for relying on scientists who were trying to understand health, and that not the capitalist food industry that profits off of selling things with no nutritional value, low cost to people, and they were consuming it and making it fat. Yeah, it wasn't the government. it was capitalism, actually, that was making people fat. Okay, let's do, was Jesus a socialist? Now, because I actually do know a little bit about this. This is a topic I can't speak to. As you know, I was an autodidact. Perhaps you don't. I'm an autodidact on early Christian history, especially first century, of the Common Era. Fuck AC/DC, like BC. Sorry, AC/DC. No, they're a good band, but like when it comes to AD and BC, is it? I don't use it. I stopped using those decades ago, like because I'm old. I use Common Era and before the Common Era. And Common Era is known as sort of the same as year 0, or actually I think about 4. It starts at 0, but it's sort of 4 AD in the other calendar, or maybe 6. I can't quite remember. But the whole purpose of having CE and BCE, Common Era and before the Common Era, is to just remove the Christian underlying assumptions of AD and BC. So I'm going to promote that with you guys too. Kick AD and BC out of your vocabulary. Replace it with the religiously neutral CE and BCE. And you'll probably piss off some conservative Christians as well. So, love to take some clips from last week's and make a montage. Go ahead. Just tag me in. Oh, that's right. Let's see, another thing I screwed up. I'm going to have to do this maybe during the break. I'll play this. But fan of the show, one of the fans of the show, put together a little remix of, Benjamin here, put together a remix with some of Sargon's best feminist system lines. So at this break, I'll put a reminder here. I'll just put that up to remind me that I'm going to put that on his music. And then at the end of the show, I also saw in the middle of it last night, we're going to go back to do some YouTube hip hop. There's been a lot of dramas in the hip hop community, but with Trump and Brexit, I don't have space on my show or in my mind to kind of like consume all that drama and then distill it down for the purposes of a Sunday show. But one of my favorite YouTube rappers, Crypt, also Scareface John, and I still like Quedeca. Quedeca's he's not lost his shine. He's just sort of not really engaged with the YouTube community, and I tend to engage with YouTubers who engage with the community, and that's Scareface and Crypt far more than Quedeca, although I still like his music. But I saw that he was premiering a video last night. I saw a few seconds of it. I loved it. I was like, okay, I'm not going to react to you anymore. I'm not going to watch anymore. I'm going to do it live on my show. So we're going to do a Sargon's all about taking the OD. Sargon is ODing. Yes, I did see that. If you guys haven't checked out the Happy Hour web Facebook page, someone's done up a little image of Carl and his favorite Orange D. Yeah, in terms of AD and CE, the numbering is, I think, pretty much, a rebranding, but Christians get irritated by it because it doesn't reinforce their normal worldview that their religion is the reality. Using CE makes them acknowledge that there are other religions. It's sort of like why they get offended at people saying happy holidays, which is perfectly, sentiment-wise, it's the exact same thing as saying Merry Christmas. It really is, but they want to hear you say Christmas because it makes them feel better. So we're going to also, in the second half of the show. So we'll do PU, and then we'll do a little Crypt. So people who don't want to do, like, the personal hangout, like, stuff. So, although my shows are crap. We've been going for almost 20 minutes now, and we've done nothing. Nada. All right, well, but we did decide on a PU video. So that's good. So what did we say we were going to do? I know we said we found it. Oh yeah, Jesus is Socialist. Yeah, that was it. Okay. All right. So we do these live. So there's no prep, no reaction that I've, already determined. We're going to do these live. And I think it's important, first of all, that we look at, because again, this is something I know about. Autodidact first century. Then we got distracted on the CE, AD, BC, BCE conversation. The initial Christian community, or Jewish community, it wasn't really a Christian community until it broke with Judaism. So during Jesus's, I ascribe to the idea that there was a normal human being, dude named Jesus, who grew up in some backwater, was a complete religious fanatic, not like a pathological one. He had some issues, but he was like a religious fanatic. Don't know what happened to him that he didn't have a wife and family in his 30s. That's really weird. I could do some empty speculation that maybe Jesus of Nazareth, because he wasn't from Bethlehem, Jesus of Nazareth might have watched his kid and wife get wiped out and then found God. That could have became really super religious and decided to become a wandering preacher. Anyway, so I think the evidence best supports the case that there was this mentally unbalanced dude named Jesus who was a religious fanatic who, for some reason in his 30s, became a charismatic preacher and attracted a small but dedicated following of people who were also Jews, and he preached to the Jews that the world was going to end. This is why I say he was a religious fanatic. He was a religious, I don't want to say nut, but he was, his fanaticism was focused around what he thought was the end of the world. And we see people like that still today, people who think the world is going to end on a certain date. And then they're always proven wrong because it's nonsense. But so Jesus, in my opinion, I think the evidence best supports the conclusion that he is a historical person, had some followers, and then was a Jewish sect that broke away from more traditional Judaism and eventually started to include Gentiles. This Jewish sect started to include more and more Gentiles, and not according to the Noahide covenant laws, where Gentiles who didn't want to have their bits cut off could be God-fearers without actually becoming full Jewish. They just sort of morphed into a non-Jewish sect. But while they were still Jews, where's the Onion thing? Jews for Jesus, Jews for Allah, and Jews for just being Jews again. There was a really great Onion headline article when Jesus converted to Islam. I don't know if you ever saw that story parody, but it's quite funny. So while they were still a religious sect, Jesus hold in common, I think. They were, basically communist in a small commune sort of sense of the word, not a modern state-based. I can't spell. Jesus was a communist lyrics. That sounds awesome. And by that, Christian communism. What we're talking about is within a community. So Christian communism is a form of religious communism based in Christianity. It is the theological and political theory based upon the view that the teachings of Jesus compel Christians to support communism as the ideal social system. There's no universal agreement on the exact date when Christian communism was founded. Many Christian communists assert that evidence from the Bible in the Acts of the Apostles suggests that the first Christians, including the Apostles, established their own small communist society in the years following Jesus' death and resurrection. He didn't rise, by the way. Just to fact check. As such, many advocates of Christian communism argue it was taught by Jesus and practiced by the apostles themselves. Some independent historians confirm it. And I am in agreement with basically that entire summary. I think, again, real dude named Jesus converted real people, and it was sort of an offshoot cult. Now, these texts are in particular quite valuable. The Acts of the Apostles were written after the deaths of both Jesus and Paul, pretty sure. I can check the dates, but Paul died, I think, in the 60s, and Acts was written very close in time, but after that. And it was not written by, any particular apostle. It's not written by an eyewitness. It's written by a Pauline, someone who was a supporter of Paul. It's a bit of a spin on how, because there was a lot of fights between Paul and the other Jewish Jesus leaders, John, James, and Peter, who wanted to stay Jewish and keep Jesus' Jewish message for the Jewish people. And then there was Paul, who's like, no, we can sell this shit. This is so marketable. You have no idea. They are thirsty for this kind of stuff. And it was simply, in my opinion, a case of Paul recruited more Gentiles than the three founders of the Jesus movement could recruit Jews. And they just gobbled them up, and the Jewish sect disappeared. So this is Acts is a piece of propaganda that's trying to tell the story that Peter and Paul and Paul and the other apostles actually did get along. But so it has a lot of interesting historical little tidbits in there about things that they thought were kind of important to include or whatever else. And there are these two passages that there's no reason really to think anybody made them up or put them in later. They seem original to the text and within line. And what they read is Acts 2. So we got two different chapters that mention this. Acts 2:44-45, quote, "All who believed were together and had all things in common. They would sell their possessions and good and distribute the proceeds to all as any had need," unquote. And that seems very much what you would do when you thought the world was going to end. This is the other thing to remember. Jesus was teaching people that the end of the world was around the corner. So you have to sort your life out. Don't worry about your material well-being, worry about your soul, worry about your heart, worry about your obedience to God. That's where you should be putting your emphasis. And in that worldview, material objects are merely sustaining you until the end comes. They don't have value beyond their ability to get you to the end of the world. So this, to me, theologically and historically, really makes a lot of sense. And then there's another reinforcing, another independent, not independent in that from a different source, but an independent mention in that it's a different part of the text, because Acts was written by somebody not an apostle. Acts 4:32-35 says, quote, "Now the whole group of those who believed were of one heart and soul, and no one claimed private ownership of any possessions, but everything they owned was held in common. There was not a needy person among them, for as many as owned lands or houses sold them and bought the proceeds of what was sold. They laid it at the apostles' feet, and it was distributed to each as any had need." And again, when you think the world's going to end in 6 months, it doesn't matter if you sell your property to keep you going for those 6 months, because you won't need it when the end of the world comes. Montero offers anthropological evidence that the practices recounted in Acts 4:32-35 were historical and practiced widely and taken seriously during at least the first 2 centuries of Christianity. Remember, they thought the world was going to end, and then it didn't end, and it didn't end, and it didn't end. And they have, okay, well, we need to reconstruct the story about what Jesus said so he's not wrong. And so they started putting more of an emphasis on like death and resurrection rather than waiting for the end of the world. So you can see how again, it makes a lot of sense. We see it today in our own societies. Doomsday cults, people will just sell everything they own, give it to the cult, and try to ride it out to the end of the world where there'll be special ones. It's the same thing. And of course, the farther away Christianity got from that belief that the world was about to end, the less interested they were in giving away their stuff. Right? This is not a spurious correlation, right? Christian communism declined as the theology that the world was about to come to an end at any moment declined, because people need to start thinking about the future. And they're not thinking about getting right with God when the apocalypse comes next week. They're thinking about living their whole lives and then dying and then getting judged after that. Not when God comes here down on earth, because that ain't happening for a while now, apparently. So this all ties into the mentality. All of this is just completely consistent with what we know. And people are still waiting for the end of the world. Exactly. It's kind of a weird thing that they get obsessed with. Sorry for my cough, by the way, guys. I make this mistake of, having warm coffee in the morning thinking it's going to soothe my voice. And all it does is make me want to cough. All right. So Christian communism does not depend merely on the principles of the early apostles. In fact, Christian communists claim that anti-capitalist ideas were rooted in the Christian faith, while modern capitalism is not yet formed in the time of Christ. His message was overwhelmingly against the love of money and greed in support of the poor. Yes, and it wasn't just because he was a good guy. It's really, 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 really important to remember that Jesus wasn't saying be good for goodness sake. He was saying the world is about to end. None of this matters except God. He was a fanatic. So I'm just going to put that out there. So when we look at the PragerU video, all of this is in aid of setting up what I anticipate the PragerU argument is going to be. Now, what I think the PragerU argument about was Jesus a socialist is going to be is that they're going to use modern notions of socialism about the state and the distribution of property and taxes and private ownership, and try to put up a straw man that that is the kind of communism that people talk about when they talk about Christian communism. And basically knock down that straw man. He's going to take, instead of looking at Christian communism within the context, like we just did, of first century CE Judea and the apocalyptic fever that was going on at the time because Romans had occupied Jerusalem and people were resisting Rome and waiting for God to save them. And so this is just my Jesus, the money changers in the temple. Yeah, the issue about, I'll just take a moment, and that's a really good question, DNF, because it's, again, a story that people tend to take through a modern lens. So if we look at the historical facts surrounding first century Judea and the practices around the temple, we know that every year people would travel from all over the Roman Empire to Jerusalem to give sacrifices, to do sacrifice, to sort of atone with God in the temple in Jerusalem. I'm sorry, not people, men, Jewish men, because women weren't allowed basically beyond the courtyard because they might be on their periods. Hold on, I'm going to cough one more time, and I'm not going to do it on camera because I hate people who cough on camera, so I'm going to mute myself. All right. Because men were coming from all over the world to make sacrifices in the temple, Jewish people had the challenge, or the Jewish authorities had the challenge, that they couldn't allow idolatry inside the holy temple area. So the temple area, if you think, was a big square, and the outside temple area was like the least holy. It was where pretty much anyone could go. Women, people who were ritually unclean could be in that area because it was far away. And then they had another, so there was a sort of outer area. And then there was another inner area, and that was closer to purity. So that was screened, like no women and nobody who was ritually impure touched a dead body or whatever the weird rules were. And then closer, even still, were just like the Levi class or the priestly class. And then, of course, in the center was the Holy of Holies. And only the high priest could go in there at a certain time on a certain day of the year, right? Otherwise, it was too sacred and nobody entered that space. So you have all of these people who need to come and buy animals to make their sacrifices in this restricted area where idolatry is not allowed. I'm sorry, I keep coughing. And as a consequence, they needed a way to change money from around the empire into the local money, which had no images on it. And the Jewish money in the temple was kosher. It didn't have anything idolatrous. It didn't have anything against the Bible. And that was the money that you needed to buy the animals. So when Jewish men came from around, if they came from Constantinople, they weren't going to buy an animal and bring it. So they wanted to be able to change their money, buy something locally, do their sacrifice, and then go home. The money changers provided a very valuable service. It was actually vital. That service was vital to the successful functioning of the temple. Now, whether those people were scamming off the top, I can't say. I mean, certainly they deserved to earn a living for the service they provided. They couldn't just do it out of the good of their heart and then go home and starve that night. And so, what he got upset about is, maybe that the market thing was going around or that it should have been farther outside or whatever. But this idea that somehow the money changer's table was because he was anti-money, that's really not the historical context. I think it is very important to understand that idolatry on coins was a really big problem for the Jews. And people needed to have those animals for their ritual sacrifice. They didn't need them, but they thought they needed them. And they needed a way to change their money. So, it's easy to just bash the small market guy, I guess, here. But Jesus didn't solve the problem. I don't know what problem he solved in that story other than sort of virtue signaling. Jesus, stupid virtue signaler. Yeah, he's got smashing things around to prove how pure he is, and now people can't get their animals for their Passover sacrifice. So that is also important context. boy, considering we've done nothing in a half an hour, it's taken us a half hour to get to this stupid video. But all right, so anyway, I'm just anticipating lots and lots of arguments for later on. And now I think it's going to be time. Oh no, you've got the screen. Sorry, I'm looking at the broadcast screen versus the going live one. So, Jesus, Socialist. Oh, this is going to be amazing. All right, we're going to do a sound check first. So I will ask you guys whether or not you can hear, and I'll check the sound on mine as well. Actually, I should take my desktop audio off of mute. That would help. And I'll leave it right there right now and see how it goes. Now let's see. Lawrence Reed, president of the Foundation for Economic Education. This should be hilarious. All right.
Was Jesus a socialist?
What did I say about how they're going to straw man? Oh my God. With a modern notion of socialism without acknowledging his true communism in terms of his rejection of material wealth and materialism in favor of a eschatological end of the world sort of self-immolation, financial. Oh God, Jesus is a tanky. Yes. I'm sorry. This is the best thing ever. This is amazing. I just have to take the moment. Jesus with a Che Guevara shirt on. That's awesome. Jesus was a tanky. Yeah, he was a Russian bear, if you know what I mean. Yes, Jesus was a bear. All right, so what I actually wanted to know from you guys was, is the sound on that level okay? It looked okay from my side, but I wanted to make sure it wasn't too quiet. So I'm going to go ahead and go with the sound level, but maybe I'll turn it up a little bit, and you guys can tell me if you think you have any problems with that. All right, here we go.
Well, if socialism is nothing more than being kind to other people, then you might think the answer is yes. If you think a cow is any animal with 4 legs, I mean, honestly, like, again, this straw manning is fantastic. I mean, it's not fantastic. I mean, it's obviously propaganda, but in terms of if you like delight on the idiocy of right-wing propaganda on an ironic level and ignore the damage it does, just how poor their arguments are. Oh my God. Oh, this is going to hurt my stomach, I think. And so we know that socialism is not just being kind to people. I don't know that anybody thinks that. So again, straw man. We should keep a track. Ding, 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 ding. I need a soundboard with like a dinger for every straw man argument we find in a PragerU video. Sound is okay. You can be kind to other people and be a capitalist.
Yeah, but you're also exploiting people. You can be kind to some people, but if you're a capitalist and you're exploiting other people, that those things don't cancel each other out. If I'm nice to one person and terrible to another person, I'm not equal. Like, that person I'm terrible to is justified for being upset with me.
John D. Rockefeller probably gave away more money than anyone in human history.
Yeah, because he profited off the labor of others. He didn't earn that. So, again, oh my... all right. So let's just think of the logic. This is like, oh God, it's like listening to Sargon. I can't believe people write these scripts down. They're trying to now say, okay, if socialism is being nice to people, and being nice to people is giving away money, then capitalists can, basically be socialists? I mean, I just don't follow their logic. Ever.
And he was certainly a capitalist.
Yeah. Again, like, redeeming your soul after exploiting people for decades is not the same as the being nice to people. But of course, he won't talk about how John D. Rockefeller got those billions that he was in a position to give away. He'll just go, look at this guy who is wealthy, and isn't he nice for giving away all this money?
Bill Gates and Warren Buffett have given away millions, too. To get an accurate answer to our question, we need to define socialism.
Oh, this is going to be the good bit back. Let's see what they do. Let's see what they do.
Socialism is the concentration of power into the hands of government elites to achieve the following purposes.
No. No. Just no. Absolutely not. Look, for government, what they're saying is public ownership. Public ownership does not necessarily mean the government, and it certainly does not mean elites. So let's, again, fact check. Let's just get an actual definition of socialism. I can't spell anything. Why do I do this to myself? Why do I type live? All right. So, simplistic terms. Let's just go to Wikipedia, because we know at least they source. They don't just make up definitions that are based on their propagandistic worldview. It's social ownership of the means of productions and workers' self-management. You don't need government at all for socialism. I mean, government ends up being probably a convenient way to regulate things, because that's what governments are set up to do, or structure things, or finance things long term, like infrastructure and education. But literally, okay, there are many varieties of socialism. Wikipedia goes on to write, there is no single definition encapsulating them all. Boy, Prager, you didn't mention that, did they? And social ownership, not government ownership, social ownership, being the common element shared in its various forms. Now, I have a lot of critiques about social ownership and worker management, and how many freaking meetings you waste time at trying to get consensus in these situations. But I'm not here to criticize what I think are potentially structural problems of socialism. I'm here to say, PragerU is lying to you. They literally do not tell you an accurate definition. They purposefully, as usual, straw man and make up their own definition so that they can knock it down. I mean, we know this. We've seen them do this in every single video. This is just today's manifestation of it. So, social ownership of the means of production and worker self-management. Not concentration of power into the hands of government elites. Just no. Wrong. Fail. Reject. Reject without revision. Do not accept. This is a lie. So there we go. Bing, 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 bing. Another lie.
Central planning of the economy?
Nope. 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 Don't need that. You don't have to have centralized planning of the economy to have social ownership or worker management. Nope. Another lie. And of course, no citations. Where are the citations? There are. Ooh, I'll back it up a bit. There are no citations. Am I centered? I'm going to be more centered here. There we go. I can do more hand motions. Yeah? All right. Unlike Carl, I actually care where my laptop shot goes. You notice that I'm not looking down at you. That's because I put something under my laptop, so I was at eye level. You know why? Because I'm more professional than a guy who gets a 6-figure salary from YouTube. All right, so let's just continue with the lies, the Prager lies that we hear to debunk every Sunday.
And the radical redistribution of wealth.
No, again, social ownership, worker management does not mean a radical redistribution of wealth necessarily. I mean, obviously, I think once you give ownership, it will change. But of course, what he's saying here is a bunch of government Politburo people will take your stuff away through the excuse of taxation, because he's not educating, he's fear-mongering. Lawrence Reed is a piece of crap. He's a dishonest tool. And I can't believe someone with this lack of understanding. I mean, who is this guy supposed to be exactly? Wasn't he the head of the Foundation for Economic Education? And he can't give a serious scholarly citation for a definition of socialism? Lawrence Reed, be ashamed. You are a hack. You give back your PhD or master's degree in economics, because you failed. You're a scam. You should be ashamed.
Jesus never called for any of that.
No. Should we look and see what the apostles did? Now the whole group of these who believed were of one heart and soul, and no one claimed private ownership of any possessions, but everything they owned was held in common. It's really hard for them when that's in the Bible. It's really hard for them to say that Jesus was pro-capitalist when his followers were rejecting the notion of private ownership. Because, and again, this is really important to remember, at this point, they thought the world was going to end. And theologically, Christianity became less and less about giving up your possessions the farther away they got from the date where they thought Jesus was coming back physically, and the world was physically going to end. But if you don't know that, then, yeah, it's harder to understand Christian theology.
Nowhere in the New Testament does he advocate for the government to punish the rich or even to use tax money to help the poor.
But that's because he was living under an authoritarian Roman occupation, you muppet. I mean, it's... How dumb are PragerU videos? But how uneducated or thoughtless or uncritical do you have to be to find that a convincing argument? The Roman occupation of Judea, of Palestine, was not meant to be a redistributive government the way we have with a modern democracy, because legitimacy for the rule lies in the people. That's why we take care of people, because the people are the ones who are being represented by their government. So no, of course Jesus wouldn't look to the Romans for charity, because the whole point of the Roman Empire was to take tax money to Rome, everywhere. God, FEE is a libertarian think tank. It's more like a stupidity think tank. It's like a stupidity spreading area. Because we know libertarians live in a woo-woo world anyway. But yeah, the Romans were not about taxing in order to redistribute, which is what modern democracies aim to do, or there are more aims for that kind of level of redistribution now than there used to be. So, of course, he wasn't talking about that level of government. But how did he live his life? By what principles did his apostles live their lives after his death? And what we see is a rejection of materialism and a rejection of consumerism and the idea of living with common property so that people's needs are taken care of. It's in the Bible. We'll see if they mention these passages in Acts.
Nor does he promote the ideas of state ownership of businesses or...
Because it didn't exist! It's like saying Jesus didn't talk about the technology to walk on the moon. Well, no shit. Of course he didn't. That's not a refutation. It's not a refutation for his position, anything we do have evidence for. And we have clear evidence from Acts in 2 different passages. So again, straw man, straw man, straw man. Oh, Jesus didn't talk about the technology needed for mobile phones, therefore you shouldn't use them. He was anti-phone.
Or central planning of the economy.
Again, not a concept that they had.
In Luke 12, Jesus is confronted by a man who wants him to redistribute wealth. Master, the man says to Jesus, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me. Jesus replies, man, who made me a judge or divider over you?
So basically, Jesus is denying his divinity and authority to make decisions. If Jesus has no ability to make that judgment, it's pretty much him admitting he's not God. He's just a dude. He's like, hey, make my brother give me half of the inheritance. And Jesus is like, how am I supposed to do that? I'm just a man, like with an opinion. What the F do I know? I don't have an authority. I'm not like recognized as as a priest or as an expert in Jewish law, although he's like autodidact. So I'm not entirely sure how this is a refutation. So we've got a quote from Luke. Let's see if he also quotes the other alleged document by the author of Luke, which would have been Acts.
And then he rebukes the man for being envious of his sibling.
So he's being anti-materialist and also saying you shouldn't want wealth. Why? Well, that makes sense because you know what? Jesus thinks, who cares about your damn inheritance? The world's going to end soon. Again, theologically, it's all consistent. So I'm not... Okay, we'll see where this goes.
How about Jesus's parable?
That's it? Wait, what was the point of that? So Jesus discredits himself as a legal scholar. I guess the point of that was Jesus didn't take on the role of saying, yeah, you should, I'll talk to your brother about not being a selfish jerk.
Maybe that's what they think that story is about. That's not what I see in that story. Look, what I see in that story, personally, is if that dude was God and someone asked him to render a judgment, an eternal, omnipotent, omniscient being would not say, "Who am I to judge you, dude?" So, again, I don't see that as anything to do with about redistribution of wealth. I just think it's a really good point to show Jesus didn't think he was divine while he was teaching in his lifetime. So, thanks for discrediting the Trinity.
Parable of the talents. Talents were a form of money in Jesus' day. A man entrusted 3 of his workers with his wealth.
Yeah, we know this story.
Money,
right, so basically, what's interesting about this is that the guys, he's not, okay, the story isn't about people making money for themselves, but more money for their owner, all right? And let's just see how they cut this up again. Sorry. Then we'll look at the one they say, and then we'll actually look at the length, the details of the story. I'll turn the volume back up.
Workers with his wealth.
Whoa, workers! Workers!
Money in Jesus' day. A man entrusted 3 of his workers with...
A man entrusted 3 of his workers. I'm pretty sure they were his servants or his slaves. Parable, talents. Yep. Here we go. Let's look. A master and his servants. They weren't workers. Not workers. They were servants to a master, right? And he entrusted 3 servants, each with 8 talents. And again, this is a parable about how you're meant to invest your work, not on your fortunes. Okay, so the story is a master who's leaving his house entrusts his property to his servants. Each one gets 5 talents. The second gets 2 talents. The third 1. The property entrusted to the people he owned, servants, slaves. So he went away for a long time, and then he asks for what they did with his money. And the first and the second used his money and made more money. So he took back the whole of their earnings, and they gave him a small reward. His master answered, "Well done, good and faithful slave." Good and faithful slave, not a worker. Not a worker, you piece of crap. These are slaves. Even this whitewashes it. It tries to make it not so bad. This was a slave owner who entrusted his slaves with money to make him more money. And then he takes all of what they earned back from them and gives them each a small reward. "Well done, good and faithful slave. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Enjoy the joy of your master." And the one who had received the 1 talent came and said, "Sir, I knew that you are a hard man, harvesting where you did not sow and gathering where you did not scatter seed." You're taking other people's labor, and you're taking the fruits of that labor that you didn't invest in, is what he's saying here. Right? So I was afraid, and I went and I hid your talent in the ground. So I'm giving you back what you gave me. You entrusted me with this amount of money. I put it in a safe place, and now I'm giving it back to you. Right? That's like if I gave someone like $500 to hold on to, and then they hold on to it and keep it safe for me, and then they give it back to me. I'm like, well, why didn't you, go gambling with this and make $750 and give me that back? This story is seriously messed up. It normalizes human slavery. It normalizes the idea that people who that workers are there to make money for their masters and then be grateful for whatever crumbs are thrown at their feet. Right? This is not a good story for capitalism. This is a story about exploitation. So now with that background, so a slave owner entrusted 3 of his slaves with some of his money.
With his wealth. The 2 who invested the money and made a profit were praised.
Because he took all of their profits and the original money back from them. He did nothing, and he became wealthier off of their labor. Of course he would be happy with them. Of course.
what did these get out? They worked hard and they get a pittance. They get a fraction of what they've actually earned in terms of the profits for their slave owner. So this is not a redeeming story for PragerU.
And the one who buried his share so he wouldn't lose any of it was reprimanded. Sounds a lot more like an endorsement for capitalism than socialism.
No, it sounds like an endorsement of human slavery and exploitation. You white patriarchal asshat. No, what that is a story of is someone who owns other people stealing what doesn't belong to them. That's what that story is. And I can't believe they're actually celebrating it. All right, let's see if they get to the part of an Acts, because we're 1:30 in. Oh man, Jesus' parable are shit. Yeah, they are. They're not good. They're not deep. They're not profound. They are certainly not in any way evidence of a higher order of thinking for the time in which they were written. Jesus, I mean, I kind of feel bad for the people who want to deny him his existence, because it's like, it wasn't his fault that his later followers like turned him into a god. I think he was just an historical guy who had a mental illness issue or had emotional problems or was, for whatever reason, fanatic. But he just had, more fanatic people who carried on his ideas. Anyway. Yeah, how can they not see the hypocrisy? I don't know. I absolutely do not know. Let's go on to see.
Doesn't it?
No.
Yes, Jesus spoke of the difficulty for a rich man to enter heaven, but not because having money is evil. It's not money, rather it is the love of money, the New Testament.
Actually, I'm pretty sure Jesus would say just having money is evil. What is the woman, or the story of the Jesus woman, like donation? That's not the right word, but she made the widow's offering. Right? Let's see what Jesus thought. Don't, by the way, do not get into a Bible quoting fight with an atheist, a self-educated atheist, somebody who is an atheist who educated themselves out of Christianity, because we know our Bible and we can go with you parable for parable. So, bring it, PragerU, because I am ready. And for whatever crap you want to pull, I can pull the rug out from underneath you. Jesus sat down on the opposite place where the offerings were put and watched the crowd putting their money into the temple treasury. Many rich people threw in large amounts, but a poor widow came and put in 2 very small copper coins worth only a few cents. Calling his disciples to him, Jesus said, "Truly I tell you, this poor woman has put more into the treasury than all the others. They gave out of their wealth, but she, out of her poverty, put in everything she had to live on." So what Jesus here is saying is, poor people's money is no burden for them to pass on. Right? What they give, it doesn't hurt them. And that's why it doesn't really mean anything. When they give away $1 billion, they wouldn't give away $1 billion if it hurt them financially. But this woman, with her faith, had nothing. She was basically like being scammed, as all religions do. But it was coming from a place that was much more pure. It wasn't about showing off or buying redemption. It was about a genuine offering made from sacrifice, which was a waste of money because it was going to a bunch of, religious, pointless things. But still, it's just a good counter that this idea that if you're rich, it's okay to be rich according to Jesus. And it's just not. Like, that story right there tells you what the rich would have to give in order to be equal to those who give with in poverty the same amount would have to be almost everything they own. I mean, think about if you want to talk about what Jesus really thought, talk about Jesus and the rich man's son, or the rich man's Jesus and the rich man. This is one that they do not like to talk about. Oh, what happened to my? Yes. The rich man and Jesus. As Jesus was starting out on his way to Jerusalem, a man came running up to him, knelt down, and asked, "Good teacher, what must I do to inherit eternal life?" "Why do you call me good?" Jesus asked. "Only God is truly good." Once again, rejecting his divinity. So Trinitarianism, crap. Jesus said, "Don't call me good, only God is good." And here he's not saying, it's okay to call me good because I'm God. He's saying, do not call me good. Only God is truly good. But, not and. Only God is truly good and to answer your question? No, he said, only God is truly good, but to answer your question, you know the commandments.
You must not murder. You must not commit adultery. You must not steal. You must not testify falsely. You must not cheat anyone. Actually, cheating anyone's not in the commandments. I don't know where does it say don't cheat anyone in the commandments? I don't remember that. Honor your father and mother. Teacher, the man replied, I obeyed all of these commandments since I was young. Looking at the man, Jesus felt genuine love for him. Quoting, there is still one thing you haven't done, he told him. Go and sell all your possessions and give the money to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. Then come and follow me. At this, the man's face fell, and he went away sad, for he had many possessions. Jesus looked around and said to his disciples how hard it is for the rich to enter the kingdom of God. This amazed them, but Jesus said again, dear children, it is very hard to enter the kingdom of God. In fact, it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich person to enter the kingdom of heaven. Why? Yeah, humanly speaking, it is impossible without you. You have to give up till it hurts is what Jesus is asking for, right? Because that's what his point, again, his theology was, the world is about to end. It doesn't matter. Your possessions don't matter. What matters is God and the law and love. So get rid of everything that is a distraction from that. Follow me, be pure, and when God comes, you'll be ready. He was wrong, but that's what he was preaching. And yeah, Christianity did take a lot of lessons from Buddhism. And so we can see that attachment to wealth is a massive obstacle to entry into heaven according to Jesus in Mark, which of course is the oldest, the most original, the nearest in time to the historical Jesus. So this was Jesus before he was reconstructed into a Gentile prophet or a Jewish Messiah. This was Jesus being like the radical preacher. This is other than maybe like the Gospels of Thomas, some of the earlier 2nd century stuff. Maybe that's independent. But this is like, of all the Jesuses in the 4 Gospels, I tend to like the Markian Jesus the best. There's no birth narrative. There's no sort of magic. He just goes one day to John the Baptist, and in that day he's transformed. He's just some dude who then becomes like anointed by God as a preacher. And he is a secret Messiah, and he keeps telling people, don't tell me what's going, don't tell what people Messiah. It's just more interesting gospel. Very, very different from John, say. Mark 10:29 says it all. What do you got here? I'm going to say, it's scrolling down. Aha, yeah. Yes, Jesus replied, and I assure you that everyone who has given up house or brothers or sisters or mother or father or children or property for my sake and the good news will receive now in return 100 times as many houses, brothers, sisters, mothers, children, and property along with persecution. So yeah, if you don't give until it hurts, if you don't give things, again, Jesus was a religious fanatic. I'm not saying these are good ideas, but when we look at what his worldview was, he was not in favor of rich people. He wanted rich people to give till it hurt, just like poor people were doing, poor faithful people. So again, don't take this when they talk about false prophets, PragerU is a false prophet.
Testament tells us that leads to evil. Jesus was warning us not to put acquisition of money and material possessions above our spiritual and moral lives.
Yeah, and how did he ask people to show that? By giving it up. It was like, if I was going to say, I really renounce all my material comforts. Let's say, I was going to go back to Buddhism and then try to preach to other people about the freedom of renunciation. What it's like when you actually just give up pursuit. Like you live with, you don't worry about a cell phone. You don't worry about the latest technology. You don't have to do those kinds of things to be a renunciant, to renounce things in Buddhism. You can work on it. But let's say that's where I was going with that. While I was doing it on my computer and I was consulting my phone. At the same time, clearly I haven't renounced anything. Clearly whatever I'm doing it's easy for wealthy people to say, oh yes, I would give this all up in a moment for Jesus. But then it's like this parable with the rich man. When push comes to shove, people don't. It's just a way to go, oh well, you can still have wealth and be a good person.
According to Jesus, not really. Not unless you sacrifice and show that sacrifice. Instead of sacrificing an animal, you need to sacrifice your 401k to show where your loyalties really are.
Was Jesus promoting a socialist model when he kicked the money changers out of the temple in Jerusalem?
What does that have to do with anything? Honestly, so we talked about the money changers. I won't go over it again, but they needed the currency changed in order to prevent idolatrous coins from entering sacred areas for their religious practices. That doesn't have anything to do with owning things in common or hoarding wealth. Nothing.
Again, the answer is no.
Why? Why is the answer no? The question doesn't even make sense. If I said, oh, does it make sense that umbrellas should be put in the oven? The answer is no. You're like, in what situation could you can't even fit an umbrella into an oven. So what are you talking about? Those words in that order don't make sense. So I'm having a lot of fun debunking this. I don't know about you guys. This is one of my good topics. Like, I know about this stuff, so I feel much better equipped to real-time debunk this. And as you guys can see, I got like Bible things to support me here, there. I am all over this.
Note the location where the incident occurred. It was in the holiest of places, God's house. Jesus was not angry at buying and selling in and of themselves. He was angry that these things happened in a house of prayer.
Again, it's not how, if you look at the ancient temple, that's not how it worked. All right, so if we look at the second temple, can you do like a layout? Yeah. Right. According to the closing verses of the second books of Chronicle, they're going to try to, I want to try to see if we can get like maybe go back. All right. Yep, okay. This is good. It mentions the court of women. Okay. So, on the location of the first and second temples in Jerusalem, let's look at the layout. This is the layout. Can I get any bigger? No. All right. Can I zoom in to make it bigger? All right. Yeah. Okay. It's not a church. It's not a single building. It's a massive area. Think about football fields on top of football fields, right? We're not talking about like Notre Dame doesn't compare. Any basilica or cathedral, and other cathedrals in America, that's not what we're talking about. Think more like the Washington Mall, right? The space between the Washington Monument and the whole mall leading up to Congress, right? Huge. Courtroom, the court of women. This is where like women could actually go into the hair. They had to stop there. Right, this is where they could get close as they could, but because Judaism is a sexist religion, they weren't allowed to get any closer. So then you get a like closer area here. You get the the court of altar of priests. Probably, I'm going to guess this is where the men would come. And they would probably buy their animals, maybe in the court of women, maybe in the court of the altar here. And before they could enter this area, they had to get rid of all of their idolatrous coins. Right. So then you get the next holiest place. And then here, this is the court of the priests. So they have only priests can come in this area, be in this area. And then in terms of coming down here, the holy place, this is like the foyer. And then once a year on the holiest day, the holiest time, somebody would go in there and do some sort of magic dance or whatever to keep God happy for another year. So just know, like, they don't even understand the layout of the temple structure. That's how ignorant these people are. So he wasn't angry that things were happening at the house of prayer. It's actually not clear to me why he was angry when people were providing a service. He just says, "You've turned my father's house into a den of thieves." But he doesn't say anything why they're a den of thieves when they're providing a service that their God, his God, laid down the law for, they thought. All right, moving on, because we know that it's just dumb point after dumb point.
He never drove a money changer from a marketplace or from a bank.
Oh no. Jesus never condemned any murderers personally either, so, that means that he was okay with murder. Like, no. We don't know why he drove the money changers, considering they were providing a necessary service. And God, I don't even know if they had banks in the way that... what you need to understand this PragerU video is to have no sense of history whatsoever, and also to not know that, like, banks didn't exist in Jesus' time the way they do today. So the point is completely irrelevant. It's not a point. It's not a point at all. That's like saying, hey, Jesus didn't say anything about not driving a car, so clearly it's okay to pollute. Banks not invented until the 12th century. Thank you, Data Portal. Thank you. Yeah, it was like the Venetians, basically. Like the system of banking wasn't all that, like the Venice and the double book accounting, Renaissance kind of thing. Yeah. If you don't know anything about history, you might be duped into believing this crap.
Jesus advises us to be of generous spirit, to show kindness, to assist the widow and the orphan. But he clearly means this to be our responsibility, not the government's.
Okay. Can you see where I'm going to go? Just out of curiosity, can you guys already anticipate the fact that we dealt with this a little bit, right? Jesus was dealing with an occupation force, an occupying foreign pagan government that had no interest in doing anything than keeping the peace, keeping trade flowing, and collecting taxes. So to compare Jesus talking to people on how to live relative to a hostile foreign power occupying your administration and rule while taking taxes from you has nothing to do with what Jesus might say about the idea of it doesn't really matter what his opinion is, but let's say we are interested. If a democratic group of people were all paying into a system, should that system take care of the people who are paying into it, and also make sure that all the people in those societies have their basic needs taken care of like the early Christian communities did? And I think he would say yes. That excess wealth in those situations is a problem, and it's a sin to God's eyes to have one person with 3 different houses while other people couldn't even find one.
Consider Jesus' Good Samaritan story. A traveler comes upon a man.
That has nothing to do with money. What? It's not just about being nice to people. It's about making a sacrifice that hurts. That's what Jesus asked from people. It wasn't just sort of like, yeah, it's fine for you to take care of yourself as long as you give a little to other people. No, that is not what his message was.
And at the side of a road, the man had been beaten and robbed and left half dead. What did the traveler? This
literally has nothing to do with communism or socialism. I'm just going to turn it down because it for fair use purposes, it literally doesn't have anything to do. This guy helped out another guy, giving him something that he can easily replenish. It's not about a sacrifice. That's just about being a nice... and actually, even the story of the Good Samaritan isn't about the person doing the good deed. It's about the fact that the person, I think, wasn't the person who was the Samaritan like discriminated against, and that's part of the reason he was like a member of an out group. And let's look up Wikipedia. Parable Good Samaritan. Because we know you can't trust PragerU. My understanding, is that the Samaritans were actually like an out group. Yes, again, they're denuding it of the point of the parable. And he's talking about those in power who have what we think are a greater moral obligation, who fail their obligations, and those who we would maybe look down upon who meet the obligations that the other people should be doing. A traveler who is stripped of clothing, beaten, and left half dead aside the road. First a priest, and then a Levite comes by, but both avoid the men. So these are supposed to be holy people. The priest and the Levite are supposed to be people in the community who people would look to solve that problem, to show compassion. And they go by. And then next, a Samaritan happens. The Samaritans and the Jews despised each other. He's completely missing the point of the story. The Samaritan and the Jews were not getting along, right?
But the Samaritan comes along and he helps the injured man in the way the priest and the Levite didn't. And then he says, who was the person who actually showed mercy? It was not the religious leaders that you expected. It was somebody else. So again, this is not at all the moral of the story. It's not like, ooh, here's a nice guy. Isn't he nice for giving his stuff away? It's those in power had a greater obligation and they failed, and God saw that. And those that you spit on and you despise, they can do great things. So, you look at people's actions, not their positions and their status and their wealth. Jesus, because he thought the world was ending, is very, he's not in favor of, he's not defending authority structures. Because he believed, when I read his theology, that people could access God directly through the law, the Torah, and observing God's laws. That the ritual stuff was in there, but that wasn't how you made a relationship with God. You made a relationship with God by obeying his commandments, being a good person, connecting with your fellow Jew. Jesus didn't convert anyone either way. By the way, Jesus didn't convert a single person to Judaism. He wasn't coming for the Gentiles. He didn't care about the Gentiles. Like, God-fearers, you're cool, but I'm not here for y'all. I'm not here to make God-fearers out of you. I'm here for my people. Right? Also left out. Yeah. To a religious people can still be a dick. Yes. It's sort of a variation of what Augustus said, or August. Oh, yeah, I muted this.
Army, for example, or have it taxed by politicians to fund a welfare bureaucracy.
Salvation Army is a homophobic piece of crap, and please don't give them money ever. Give money to other charities that will not use it to spread homophobia and discriminate against gay people and the LGBT community. So just putting that out there. And also, there weren't politicians at this point, or not in the way that we have them. There were basically, like a mafia and competing factions. That was Rome.
Progressives like to point out that Jesus said, "Render unto Caesar the things that are Caesar's."
Well, more interesting, I'm waiting for them to get those two passages in Acts. What about Acts 2 and Acts 4 that we looked at, where everything was held in common and they sold their possessions in order to have people in the group taken care of? So this, render unto Caesar's that which is Caesar's, is basically saying pay tax to, whoever is in the government, but you have to render not only money but service unto God. So I don't...
Unto God the things that are God's. But that has absolutely nothing to do with high taxes or wealth redistribution.
Yeah, because he's talking about the Roman overlords, which you never mention. He never mentions ever in this video, 3 minutes in, that the Romans were a hostile occupying military force that was there to impose peace, impose stability, and collect money. And of course, Jesus wouldn't talk up that government. Because it was oh my God, they're so...
It was the seed for the idea of separating church and state.
No. No Jewish group at that point, and no Jews who followed Jesus afterwards thought there should be a separation of church and state. They just wanted a Jewish religious state. They were still theocrats. So trying to retcon this into Jesus was the first secularist? Just what?
It certainly wasn't the same as saying that whatever Caesar says is his must then be so.
If we were... Okay, I didn't want to have to do this. But I'm going to do it. So, Paul, the governing authorities. Don't mess with an atheist. Do not mess with an atheist when you want to compare Bible quotes. Bible votes. It's hard to talk smack when you can't say it right. All right. So what is the Christian theological position on the payment of tax? Would you like to know? Because it's in the Bible. Well, it's in the Christian Bible. It's in the text that they consider holy. So let's look at Romans 13, penned by Paul, who was reaching out to Gentiles, converting them over to this modified version of Judaism, which eventually became Christianity. And we're going to skip down here. Submission to governing authorities.
Let everyone be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except which God has established. So much for that secularism, that separation of church and state claim that we just saw. Or, if that was the case, Paul didn't get the memo. The authorities that have existed have been established by God. Consequently, whoever rebels against the authority is rebelling against what God has instituted. Technically, the founding fathers should have been rejected by God because it was God who had instituted the British king, the English king, and they rebelled against them. So technically, the entire American Revolution is a blasphemy in the eyes of God, and has been for the last 2 centuries. Christians in America won't tell you about that. Nobody mentions that verse, but that is what it says. For rulers hold no terror for those who do right, but for those who do wrong. Do you want to be free from terror, free from fear of the one in authority? Then do what is right, and you will be commended. Also, Paul, not a political scientist, not a student of politics, not a good political theorist, nor a political historian at all. That's a load of crap. The idea that if you're just, you don't break the law, everything will be fine. Anyway, yada, 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 yada. Okay, I'll read it out. Then do what is right and you will be commended, for the one in authority is God's servant for your good. But if you do wrong, be afraid, for rulers do not bear the sword for no reason. Oh yeah, they do. They are God's servants, agents of wrath to bring punishment on the wrongdoers. Therefore, it is necessary to submit to the authorities, not only because of possible punishment, but also as a matter of conscience. Remember, he is, this is sort of like what Nietzsche is talking about, a slave mentality, I think. He's not only talking to free people here, he's also talking to slaves. And for slaves, the authority is the slave master. So this is also not only to freed men, but also to the property, for the women who are property and the slaves who are property. He is reinforcing the notion of basically divine right and know your place. And then he goes on to say, this is why you pay taxes. For the authorities are God's servant who give their full time to governing. Give to everyone what you owe them. If you owe taxes, pay taxes. Pay your taxes. Whatever the governing authorities decide are your taxes, pay that, according to Paul, because they are making decisions that are in that are decisions that God once had to have made. Give to everyone what you owe them. If you owe taxes, pay taxes. If revenue, then revenue. If respect, then respect. If honor, then honor. So this is very much a status quo passage. This is a passage about pacifying rebellion and individual rights. But quite clearly, the Bible thinks you have a moral obligation to pay whatever taxes are set by the government, and also that you should not rebel against those taxes, because those authorities have been put there by your God for your good. PragerU is going to have a real hard time with that passage, that's probably why they didn't bring it up.
No matter how much he demands or what he intends to use it for. So there is no evidence that Jesus was a socialist.
No, he was a communist. He held things in common. And his followers, his followers could not have gotten that idea on their own. They got that idea from their leader. So Jesus was a first century communist. Jesus was not okay with capitalism. More importantly, Jesus was definitely not okay with capitalism. One, because it didn't exist in the form that we tend to think about it. But was Jesus suspicious of wealthy people who hoard their wealth? Did he demand that the wealthy people give till it hurts, give up their possession to demonstrate their loyalty, their devotion to God? Yes. Did he give rich people an out, saying it's okay to be wealthy and be a complete servant of God? No. Because he thought the world was going to end and money didn't matter. If you understand why he was saying these things, it wasn't just because he was a religious fanatic who was asking people to make these sacrifices in order to demonstrate their loyalty. Although that's what it was. He really thought the world was coming to the end, and he saw material possessions as an obstacle to people's connection with God. And that's why he was, praising the poor and the impoverished, because anything they gave was massive, so they felt very virtuous. And it's why the authority classes found him very disturbing, because he undermined their authority. So, anarcho-privativism. Yeah, I think that's could be. I mean, we don't really know. We talk about early Christian communism or whatever else. It's kind of hard to say because we only have these passages. We don't have more data than that, so we can speculate sort of wildly. But whatever it was not about they weren't doing 401ks. They weren't pooling all of their money as a group and then looking for an investment firm to place their funds with for long-term growth and stability against, fluctuations in the Roman market. That's just not how it worked. These were people who were just living hand to mouth trying to survive.
And there's lots of evidence that he supported free markets.
It's also, there's evidence that he supported slaves making money for their slave masters and then being happy with a token portion of it. So I'm really not interested in Jesus' moral framework. He could have his opinions, but it's not as if he didn't support the free market, he supported slavery. That's what he supported.
In addition to the parable of the talents, Jesus offers his parable of the workers in the vineyard. In it, a landowner hires some laborers to pick grapes. Near the end of the day, he realizes he needs more workers to get the job done. To recruit them, he agrees to pay a full day's wage for just 1 hour of work. When one of the laborers who had worked an entire day complains,
"Well, that's terrible business practice. Seriously. What person gives you a full... I mean, how is this supposed to be an example of Jesus supporting the free markets? Because this is a terrible business decision. You've got some people over here work 10 hours. Let's say you're going to give them a tenner per hour, so you give them 100. And then you're going to give these people over here $100 for an hour of work because you forgot to manage things better. Your planning was bad, so now you're going to, waste money on overexpensive labor and also create problems in your workforce with unequal pay. This isn't a business person. This person's an idiot. Like, this person should not be running a business. I don't know how they made it this far. This is a terrible decision."
The landowner answers, "I'm not being unfair to you, friend. Didn't you agree to work for a denarius?"
Wow, look at you stupid worker. Why didn't you guys form a union and, leverage the power of your labor against what I'm willing to pay? So what Jesus is saying is it's fine to screw people over. It's fine for rich people to screw people over. Is that really the message PragerU wants to give?
Don't I have the right to...
Oh, all the masters are white in this video? Pretty much everybody. Yeah, we should do a white count because we did a white count on the last video and everybody was white except for some, I think, Antifa people. You want to talk about a white world? About the white supremacy myth of white male patriarchal power being legitimate? It is manifest in these PragerU videos. White men are always in positions of power. Always, always, always.
To do what I want with my own money? That's a testament to the principles of supply and demand.
No, seriously. It's a principle. It's showing the principles of poor business practices. Honestly, he's paying 100 times his costs for an hour's labor. That's terrible. You're never going to stay in business doing that. That's just not a good story.
Of private property and of voluntary contracts.
You are able to get screwed by the rich when you don't have a union. That's the story. That's the tale of that story. Yeah, you definitely... What this story tells you is that you need to unionize so that all the workers get the same amount of pay for the same amount of work, rather than letting the whims and capricious nature of some rich landowner who can undercut you.
Jesus never endorsed the forced redistribution of wealth.
No, he endorsed voluntary surrender of wealth multiple times. And he said people who didn't do it were not going to go to heaven.
That idea is rooted in envy, something that he and the 10th of the 10 Commandments railed against.
Wait a minute. So envy is bad. However, the slave owner who punished his slave who didn't make or lose him any money, just gave him his deposit back,
So that greed is okay. That greed, that envy for other richer people's stuff. Rich people can have envy. Poor people can't have envy. When rich people have envy, that's virtuous because it drives profits. But when poor people are envious of the money that people who don't work get just for sitting around, that's bad. This is just such white patriarchy, such a white supremacist patriarchy.
Most importantly, Jesus cared about helping the less fortunate. He never would have approved anything that undermines wealth creation.
Oh, so this guy now knows what is in the mind of he thinks is God. He thinks he can read God's mind based on the text, the contradictory texts of 4 different gospel Jesuses. There's not one Jesus in the New Testament. There are 4 Jesuses. There's Mark's Jesus. Well, actually, there's more than that. There's Mark's Jesus, Luke, Matthew's Jesus, John's Jesus. There's Paul's Jesus. And then you can kind of get later on, but the later Jesuses are derivative of the earlier Jesuses, so they're not quite as unique. But yeah, Jesus actually would have opposed undermining wealth creation because it would take the focus away from God and put it on the material world. I mean, when you talk about wealth creation, what is it, Jesus and the lilies? Yeah. When we talk about wealth creation, right? Consider the lilies. Have you guys ever seen that, God, was it Stuart Lee? Consider the lilies. Anyway, okay. The lilies of the field. We have a... I definitely don't... Alright, we'll look at the gateway, I guess. What do we got here? We got Matthew. Yes, we've got Matthew. Therefore I say unto you, be not anxious for your life, what ye shall eat, or what ye shall drink. Nor, and this is a really, really awkwardly phrased one. Can we get a different version? Maybe a more modern version of this? I do like Young's, by the way. I like Young's literal translation generally, but we'll go... What about the RSV? Yeah, this is better. Therefore I tell you, do not be anxious about your life, what you shall eat or what you shall drink, nor about your body, nor what you shall put on your body. Is not life more than food, and the body more than clothing? Look at the birds of the air. They neither sow nor reap nor gather into barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. And are you not more valuable than they are? And which of you, by being anxious, can add 1 cubit to his span of life? And why are you anxious about clothing? Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They neither toil nor spin. Yet I tell you, even Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these. But if God so clothes the grass of the field, which today is alive and tomorrow is thrown into the oven, will he not much more clothe you, O men of little faith? You can see that Jesus is basically, therefore do not be anxious about tomorrow, for tomorrow will be anxious for itself. Let the day's own trouble be sufficient for the day. So he's not into money. He's like, say the opposite. Abandon your concerns. To the point of ridiculousness.
The only thing that has ever created wealth and lifted masses of people out of poverty is free market capitalism.
I'm sure that's in the Bible. No, it's not, actually. Lots of things made people money before free market capitalism existed. And there's lots of ways to make money that don't involve a capital investment. But it's PragerU. So, no, Jesus was not a capitalist. He was communist. He might not have been a socialist in the modern sense, but he was definitely not a capitalist. If anything, Jesus would have been anti-capitalist because it would have gone against the whole eschatological theology that he had taught. Am I saying that right?
Read the New Testament. The plain meaning of the text is loud and clear.
Jesus was a communist. Jesus was an anti-capitalist, small commune communist. That's clear from the text. So I would encourage people to read it.
Jesus was not a socialist.
Jesus was a communist.
He couldn't be.
Jesus was not a capitalist. Yeah, he couldn't be because it didn't exist at the time.
He loved people, not the state.
This is stupid. You can't compare the American government with the Roman occupation of Jerusalem and the Palestine. You just can't.
I'm Lawrence Reed.
Lawrence Reed is a lying sack of crap, a sellout, and a moron, and a tool. And he is a face of like white supremacist patriarchy. Right there. You, Lawrence, you're a perfect poster boy. When we talk about all the problems with white supremacist patriarchy, that's you.
President of the Foundation for Economic Education.
Which you've completely discredited. Like no one, this is embarrassing. This is humiliation in terms of just being wrong at everything.
For Prager University.
Yeah, for a right-wing propaganda outlet. You have no soul. If I believed in a soul. Oh, God, you want to see the crappy study guide? All right, because you know I love you guys. Go ahead. Let's see the study guide. I never know which, I should probably close some of these windows now. Do you feel like that was pretty good debunking? I feel like I thoroughly debunked that. It's kind of a challenge to do these spontaneous bunkings, you know. Normally if I would do a video like this, I would watch it through and make all these points and then go and, you know, do citations and write up a script. I haven't made a video like that in a long time. And then do all my voiceovers and counterpoints. So doing it on the fly like this, a little bit exposing because, you know, I could be caught up. But was Jesus a socialist? Take the quiz. Yeah, let's take the quiz. A capitalist probably gave away more money than anyone in human history. Who cares? What does Jesus do in the New Testament? All right, so like they give a bunch of names. I'm not going to take this stupid test. What does Jesus do in the New Testament? Advocate for the government to punish the rich. Say to use tax money to help the poor. Promote the ideas of state ownership of business. None of the above. All right, can we just like... So stupid. Jesus promoted a model of socialism when he kicked out the money changers out of the temple. What? What model of socialism? What model of socialism? This is ridiculous. Jesus is telling of the parable of the workers. Sorry, the slaves. The slaves. They were slaves. And the vineyard is a testament. Oh, those were workers. Those actually might have been... Yeah, sorry, those were day workers. Those were undocumented migrant workers who were working off book to feed their family. And he decided to screw them over. Yada, yada, yada. What's the only thing that has ever created wealth and lifted people out of... God, that's awful. Oh, they are so terrible. I'm so happy they're demonetized. They just deserve to be demonetized everywhere. This is just crap for your brain. Absolute garbage. Well, guys, was that fun? Did you find that amusing? It is going to be time for a break. I can tell my knees... I should say my legs are tingling. My knees are fine. My legs are just tingling from a lack of circulation. My coffee is cold and near the bottom of my cup. So, as promised, we're going to take a break. I will come back. I want to just go over the Crypt video, maybe take questions from the chat. So if you guys have any questions for me, you can type those now. Otherwise, I'm going to stretch my legs, make some coffee, and take a break. And in the meantime, I don't know how long this is, so I guess we'll do this. It's a club mix. It's definitely music that's going to be like, ooh, pause, stop. How do you stop this? Ah, there it is. All right, sorry about that, guys. I was a little bit taken aback. Is it possible to go to the actual, yes, this will be easier to interact with. All right. As you can see, it's definitely techno. If you don't like this type of, I like this type of music. I like lots of type of music, including this one. So if you don't want to hear that, you can mute for a few seconds. Otherwise, it does get some feminist system things going on. So I think I'm trying to figure out how to do this because everything I have has me in it. So I'll just like, I don't want, you're going to see me getting in and out of my, I'll just tip my camera thing up. I was like, there we go. So it's a little bit harder to see me coming and going. So you're going to have a boring shot. Sorry. Not that one. This one. Okay. I know it's a weird angle. Oh, look at me. I'm in the bottom of my... But that's just because I like when I come and go, I don't want you guys to be distracted by that. The sound techno is not for everyone. Agreed. But I like it. And so I'm going to play it.
You can come back in 5 minutes if you don't. And I'll just check the sound volume on that. Yeah, that seems fine. Alright. Enjoy this remix, guys. Is that too loud? No, not too loud. Be right back after I get coffee.
Which is ironic considering that before your stupid social justice feminine bullshit, it didn't happen on this scale. It's crazy. This is a disease of the modern age. You are responsible for perpetuating it by disenfranchising these poor fucking guys who don't have any fucking feminist system. 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 Fucking women's march money! Fucking feminist system! Fucking feminist system! Fucking feminist system!
Right now, you might not be as popular as top musicians, but that's why you're here, to make it bigger, and you know that someday you will. Trust me, when it comes to that, we've got you covered. We want to share 3.5 million listeners with you, the dreamers and the doers. Ditch the struggle. Say hello to WASP. Visit wasprecords.com to submit your track.
Hey guys, sorry, I'm back now. How long has it been gone? Yeah, I was too slow in coming back. My apologies. I'm used to having my settings inside. I guess you don't need more to see more than just the top of my head now. There. Hello. Hold on. I'm gonna mute this while I move my mic. But yeah, sorry about that. Oh, only 30 seconds of silence? That's not so bad. Boris, yeah, the whole, the letter for the Brexit thing. I let Kevin specialize in Brexit news because I can't keep up with Trump news and Brexit news in depth the way that I need to. So Kevin he's like, I free ride on, okay, it also means I'm filtering all of my information through him, which could be problematic. Not problematic, but be a problem, in terms of just skew. But generally, yeah, I rely on Kevin a lot for that. So anyway, was ill last night, went to bed super early. I hope you feel gute Besserung. Data, Portal. Ja, ich wünsche dir eine gute Besserung. I wish you a good bettering. It's very technical. Trying to find the sweet spot on the mic, not too close, not too far. I don't want you guys. I don't want to hear you. You will hear me breathing, but on the other hand, I don't want to have to shout across the room. Okay, so yeah, not too many questions in the chat. That is absolutely fine. Today, I am not too panicked about going. I know that it's about 1:45 now. Normally, I like to wrap up by 2 because on Sundays I call my family. But my dad's on vacation this week, so if we go a little over, that's okay with me. Okay, so thanks again, Benjamin, for that. Enjoyed that a lot. We can close down all the socialism debunking stuff, and yeah, we're gonna go with some hip hop. All right, I think that's we're all done with PragerU for this. I have to put it in the citation, I guess, but I'm lazy today. I'm really bad about that. I also feel like I'm citing them when I put them on screen. People can always find it. But all right. So yes, I was checking YouTube last night, and one moment I did it was like during about 2 minutes into this video. One of the things that I like about Crypt a lot. Actually, I might be able to change the screen here. Ooh, I am so big in that one. Super big. Do I need to be that big? No, but I think what I could do instead is maybe bring this down here. Sorry, I'm just mucking about with my screens. I think I'm probably best off keeping things where they are right now and just be little. Yeah, just little me in the corner. Crypt, great lyrics. Oh my god, his verses, I should say. The way that he does like concepts across bars, the way he has a theme, the way that he uses syllables with such dexterity, the way that he plays with language and word, I really like that. I've always felt his hooks or his choruses were the weakest parts of his songs. It just kind of always felt like, I don't know, like more like he was aspiring to have a hook that would be like more, it was like he was trying to copy other people's hooks really than finding one on his own. And in this case, I really do feel like from what I saw, this is the first hook that he has had that I feel like really fits well with the song and fits his voice. So I was like, I don't want to look anymore. I don't want to do anymore. I'm definitely gonna save it for the show. So let me see what I could possibly do here to change it up is make this screen bigger. Oh, I didn't want that big. Sorry. I only wanted it in theater mode, not full screen. Yeah, that's better. Yeah, because I'm just looking at where I'm placed relative to where, I am seen in the chat. So maybe I'll do this. I'm moving all over. I'm in the box. Can't get up. Okay, so here we go. Crypt. I'll also go check him out afterwards too. He's got a great channel and got a lot of great content. But I wanted to hear the song start to finish, and you guys are going to do it with me, unless you leave. In which case, I'll catch you next week. But if you want to stick around for this, we're going to listen to it now. All right, for the purposes of fair use, I'm just going to jump in here. I'm just going to talk about the video. Clearly, we're in a cemetery. It's a very somber song. We're in a minor key. But I have to say, I like the lighting. Like, I like the fact that they shot it on this sort of really gray, rainy day. The lighting casts a real sort of blue haze over it, and so it really gives you that feeling of depressed.
It seems like every time I go and try and pick up the mic, I rap about the things that don't really affect me in life, like how I'm great at articulating my bars that I write, or how the fame will never change a single thought in my mind. I rap about how I'm better than any rapper in sight. I rap about how I'd kill them on a beat if they even try to rap about how I'd eat them and then make fun of my sides. I rap about all these mumbling rappers and tell them to die because I get so angry when they don't even think when they write, but come to think of it, when it comes to thinking, neither do I. I like to act like I'm the greatest to ever rink out a rhyme, but who am I convincing? I like to keep my confidence high, but I lie to myself every time that I say that I'm fine, because deep inside I'm scared to write about what's in my mind. All these sensitive topics are bottled up really tight, and I can't take a sip, cause taking this sip brings my demons to life. I'm not.
Damn, Crypt! Ooh. Wow. I don't know if you guys, maybe my ear is getting faster. I'm keeping up with all of his lyrics. And one, it is just typical Crypt. It is typical coming at you like a machine gun, but in this case, he's really going for something more. He's kind of telling you behind the scenes, like, yeah, I've got these great lyrics and I'll make fun of how fat I am, but it's all basically a front. Oh, this is, like I said, I was really excited about what I was seeing in that, I think about 30 seconds or something I watched earlier, but Crypt, this is good. Loving the lyricism, loving the words, the little staccato way of using it, and also the build up to the chorus. So
I'm not okay. I can't rap about the things that are causing pain. It leaves a stain when I put them on the paper. They don't ever leave my cranium. They stay inside my brain and multiply into a greater sun. It's like they stay dormant until I force them into the world and they become the main source of my torment. I cannot endure this. It aches to my core and it's horseshit, cause all I wanna do is just ignore this. But I can't, and y'all don't understand the type of mindset that it fucking puts me in. When you ask me to rap an emotional track, I have to reach back to a part of my brain that is black. I cannot escape it. I can barely take it. I can't face all this pain that my heart is taking. It's aching every bar I'm saying, cause it's hard to make it day to day. These scars are saying,
oh yes, this is like what I really this is amazing. I'm so glad I'm watching it with you guys. I'm so excited about the chance to react, because this to me is what toxic masculinity in our society does to men. So when boys are socialized to control their emotions by repressing them or hiding them or covering them up, there's two things that we're denying them. One is even giving them an opportunity to work through their emotions and attach words to those emotions to give them a language to describe their inner state. Like, now, this might be a stereotype, but from what I read, men have a harder time expressing what they're feeling inside than women do. And I think part of that is a function of the fact that women are allowed to talk about our feelings. We're encouraged to talk about our feelings. We encourage each other to talk about our feelings. But when men are together, they aren't. And men in society aren't. So it's sort of like, women spend all this time practicing guitar and guys just rock out on it. And then you ask them to do something a bit more subtle and they're like, I'm not trained for that. So part of it is an inability to even describe what's going on, but then there's just the idea that if something hurts, you just push it to the back of your mind and you forget about it and you move on, and those hurts don't go away. And if so these lyrics are really, they're speaking to the public versus the private artist, the Crypt in this case, who is out there talking smack, flexing on his skills, is like, bring it on, whatever else. But then he's talking about what it actually involves emotionally, the emotional cost of going back and talking about real things. So really, I'm really amazing. This is, I'm so happy we're reviewing this together.
I'm not alright, I'm not okay. I don't wanna feel today. I don't wanna deal with pain. Someone take this all away. 'Cause I'm not okay. I'm not alright, I'm not okay. I'm not alright, I'm not okay.
Oh.
I'm not alright, I'm not alright, I'm not okay.
I'm sorry, this is Crypt going to a next level. Like, one, there's an honesty. Like, real recognize real, right? So, but there is a genuine honesty, not only in his lyrics, but you can hear it in his singing. Like, I don't know about you guys, I hear that pain. And it's not only, like, do I hear the pain and it's authentic, but, like, he's hitting the notes. I don't think that's auto-tune. And this is what I meant about, like, when I saw it, I was so excited, because I felt like, here is the hook. This is it. This is where Crypt puts together the talent he has when it comes to his verses, and the talent he has with his hook. Now, I mean, I don't know his entire oeuvre, so maybe there's another song where the two balance out this well, but it's almost like his chorus is more impressive because his voice is beautiful. Oh my god, I love this song. And it just breaks my heart because it's so authentic and true, you know?
No one even knows about this crush that I have. It's why my discography don't have any songs that are sad. Because every time I go and try and make, when depression awakens and takes over like a tapeworm and it eats away at my soul. So many stories that went untold. Cause I'm not man enough to control my emotions, so I bury them all down below. I'm not alright, I'm not okay. I can't talk about the things that are causing pain. I can't talk about the time that I lost my first love and wanted to shoot myself in the motherfucking brain. I can't talk about the night that she left me. I put a bag over my head to try and suffocate, but I backed out just before I blacked out so my mother wouldn't have to put her own son in a grave. Can't talk about the day that I lost my grandma. I prayed to God, but now I am lost. Cause I asked him to save her, but the next day he'd take her away and now my faith is gone. I often think, is she proud of me? She never even knew about this rap scene. She never even knew I swore, never knew about my tour. Hell, she ain't even know about half of me. I'm not alright, I'm not okay. Everybody tells me time will take away the pain. Everybody tells me life is just a book of chapters and all I have to do is act like it never happened and turn the page. But they don't know that all my pages are the same. Everyone contains the same info, the same pain, the same blacked out window, the same pain, the same passed down limbo, the same shame. I'm not alright, I'm not okay. I would trade it all away to write a new page, but not a blank. They're all full, it's not cool. All telling me I'll never make it in this game of life and I'm a fool. All telling me to get up on a pedestal, put a rope around my neck, tie it off and jump it till it pulls, smothering me to death. Maybe then I'll get some rest, but until then I got some more people to impress. I gotta put that fake smile on, the fake voice, I gotta fake everything just so people pay coin. I always say to anyone who's fake, I punch them in the jaw. So I'm hitting myself cause I'm the fakest of them all.
All right, so I don't think Crypt is ever going to come back on this and clash it, and cash. So I don't want to just play his music without any commentary either. There's so much truth in this. Like you can feel it. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but there's no barrier, I think, between what his real inner thoughts are and what he's putting on the page, which is really brave, you know, and talking about this. So, yeah.
I don't even know how to be real. Hell, I don't even know who the real me is. Maybe when I can finally be still, the fake me will cease to exist and the real me will live. I'm not alright, I'm not okay. I don't wanna feel today. I don't wanna deal with pain. Someone take this all away. Cause I'm not okay.
Damn. I am so glad I caught that. And the video too. Next level. That's Crypt for me going to another level in terms of his talent. One, he's got the confidence to speak about his pain like that, which takes a lot. And again, like I said, I always thought the weakest part of his songs were his choruses. Not this one. Not this one. So if you enjoyed that, I'm probably going to go get that on Spotify, if I'm honest. That's going to be part of my hip-hop tracks. If you guys want to know what I'm listening to, by the way, I do have it's kind of an old curated one right now, but maybe I'll tweet this out. On Spotify, I do have a curated hip-hop tracks where I put things that I am listening to. I think Crypt's song is going to definitely make it into my into my playlist. Well, guys, this is the end of the show. I don't know if anyone's still listening or everyone left for their hip-hop stuff, but top of the hour, 2:00, perfect. I know I went a little bit late with the start because of stupid YouTube, but yeah, guys, that's been the Sunday show. So I hope you enjoyed it, and no one else is writing anything in the chat. So, on the assumption that pretty much everyone disappeared when the hypno. If you guys want to get a hold of me the best way or to follow me, you can check me out on Twitter. I'm using Facebook less and less. I use Facebook for our happy hour group and my patron group, but I just don't like it as a platform just over time, and you guys know all the reasons. So the Sunday show was fun again. Yeah, great. Okay, James, you're in the chat. Okay, at least I'll talk to you. So James, yeah, thanks for sticking around, James. Okay, and next Sunday, I think now. Oh wait. Next Sunday, I might have to do it. I might need to do a weeknight winters because I am traveling. I'm going to be in the Netherlands, and I don't think I will be back in time to do a Sunday morning show. So in which case we might need to do like a weeknight winters on Thursday night. I will try to set that up now and see how that goes. So just to say, it's going to be a Thursday show to make sure that I don't skip a week rather than the Sunday show, because I'll probably be traveling, and I will be doing my Sunday patron hangout, but maybe a bit later. But I'll talk to my patrons about that. So, guys, thank you for joining me this morning, afternoon, evening, wherever it is, whenever it is, where you are. I have been Christy. Y'all have been awesome. And until weeknight winters later on this week, which I will try to schedule in advance and circulate, thanks for stopping by. I've been Christy. You've been awesome. And it's time for me to hit the stop streaming button now. Where is it? There it is. Okay, guys, thanks again for stopping by.